Well, thank you all for coming. The size of this audience is fantastic and is an indication of the popularity of the show. Damien, can you talk a bit about the genesis? You and Russell met on Lewis, I believe.
No, we first met many years ago on Inspector Morse. I was script editing, Russell was writing an Inspector Morse special. This is 21 years ago. A long time ago. The Way Through the Woods was the film. And that's the only Morse that you wrote.
It was. Yes, they wouldn't have me back.
And then, some years after that, Lewis came up, and Hathaway and Lewis, the whole idea of that came from Russell. And then many years passed, and there was Colin Dexter wrote a short story which appeared in the Daily Mail that was about the young horse, and in a very obvious way, a light bulb appeared.
For which we're all very grateful.
And it was genuinely very obvious to us that the two things that had to happen, Colin Dexter had to give his approval, and he took a lot of persuading that this was a good idea, but we had to persuade Russell, because Russell was the only writer who we felt would be able to do it justice and create a show that managed to honour Inspector Morse, but also have integrity in its own right as a new thing, which is, and I remember when I think this is what happened. I can't remember if it was a phone call or a meeting, but saying, oh, we've had this idea, thinking, you know, is this, what would people make of this? Is this a good idea, is it a bad idea? And you just said, and so we don't know what we call it. Young Inspector Morse, and you went, Endeavour. And at the point we thought, oh my goodness, we could call it Endeavour. It felt like it made sense, and that it deserved to be made, it deserved to exist, because that was such a great title for a show.
Shall we see a clip from the pilot? I think it's the first scene where Morse meets Thursday.
There's no overtime.
I realise that.
So what is it, brown-nosing or sucker for punishment? There's no other kind of bloody fool still in the office at this time of night.
Just us. I thought I should take a look at the Tremor case files.
Which one are you?
Morse. So, Carshall, Newtown.
So?
Mary Tremor, 15 years old. Last seen by her parents Saturday 4 o'clock when she left, supposedly to go to the pictures with another girl, Valerie
Quiller.
Who denies any such arrangement. No boyfriend, no troubles at home, so it's unlikely she's a runaway. But that's it. Not much to go on.
It really is this kind of case. But we keep looking. Come on then.
There is one thing, sir. Going through this list of her belongings at home, she's a copy of the Oxford Book of English Verse by her bed, together with a Shropshire Lad and the Betjeman Collective.
Young girls love poetry.
The young girls like Mary Tremor.
Too highbrow for a girl whose father works on the GMC assembly line, that's your point?
No, my point is that they're hardbacks. Beyond the pocket of a schoolgirl, I'd have thought. Just struck me as odd, that's all.
And they were a present. Her parents, school prize even. There's official lines of inquiry we're following, Morse. Poetry books isn't one of them.
Wonderful to see you, Russell. when you first talked to Damien about it, what made you think, yes, this could fly?
Well, I'd been a fan of Morse back in the 80s when it started, so it was kind of, I came to it as a fan as much as anything else. And the opportunity of growing back the years and seeing how he became the character that the audience were familiar with was seemed an opportunity to miss, really. I mean, it's just, you know, you've got 30 years to play with. So, it was just something.
What about you, Shaun, when you were first approached about this, what was your reaction?
I was excited. I mean, I was away at the time, working away, and so when my agent called me about it, it was easier for me to get the books than the previous DVDs. And so I picked up the books and started there. I thought, God, this is incredible. I never seen the TV show prior to that. And obviously I knew of the name Morse, and I knew of I knew of it, but I'd never seen it firsthand. So I read the books and was blown away by the books, and I thought, not dissimilar to what Russ said, in fact, that if you can see how this person, as a young man, becomes this character, then I thought that's an interesting starting point. And then I came back to the UK and read the script that Russell had written. I was blown away by it. Yeah.
What drew you towards Abigail when you were first invited to join? What was your response?
Oh, it's really exciting. Yeah, I just first heard about it from my agent, who said they're going to do a young Morse. What? That's impossible. You can't do. Yeah, no, it's dead. It's gone. It's dead. And then she said, no, they're doing. You know. And I thought, oh, can I be in it? And so she said, oh, do you want to? I said, of course I do. So she then got hold of you and set the tape over, and they gave me a job. And it was just, yeah, really, I mean, Shaun was brilliant. I didn't know Shaun, I didn't know anyone, and it was just very, very exciting to bring it all to life in a new, completely different way. Back in the 60s, with different actors, it was filmed at a very different time of year. It was dark and cold, as opposed to the sort of bright sunlight, sort of golden spires, and it felt very exciting.
Did you feel a special connection with it because of your family connection?
Oh, of course. But I think I felt a bit bad for Shaun actually, because I obviously coming on set, I felt, God, I'm bringing all this baggage, and if it was me, I'd be dreading it. The daughter of this, colossus, and coming along and really sizing up, thinking, well, he wouldn't have done it like that. So I was very aware, but I was also really nervous. I mean, just as an actor, I was nervous because obviously I wanted to do a good job, and it was such a great script. But the cameraman had worked with my father, and the driver had driven my father. So immediately, great, lovely gentleman, and all that. So I felt a bit at home, and then we just hit it off, and it was fine. Yeah, the rest is history.
I think you told me once your father would have really enjoyed the show, that he would have loved the premise and the beautiful way it's made.
Yeah. I mean, he was a man of, I think he just enjoyed quality and good writing. Writing was his highest priority before anything. And I know he would have loved Russell. He knew Russell anyway, and his work with his work before, and actually there's a series that Russ wrote that was not one of my father's all-time favourite series. That, never quite flew.
No.
But
wonderful.
Wonderful. And so I knew that was right. I felt everything was. I couldn't have done it if it wasn't absolutely in place. I'd never have done something like this unless I felt completely comfortable with it, and I did.
Shall we see a clip of you two in action together, the Dorothea clip of when your two characters first meet?
Yeah.
I need a name and address for your Saturday puzzle centre. Oz.
Out of luck then, aren't you? He's anonymous, like most of them.
Well, you send his fee somewhere, presumably.
Fee? This is Oxford. We'll do it for the honour. Look, I really am fearfully busy. I've got the stores to do by lunch. I'm only at tourists.
People don't really believe such guff, do they?
You'd be surprised. The chaplain at Christ's has just declared for reincarnation.
When's it usually delivered? The Saturday grid?
First post Wednesdays are all. We go to press Thursday.
And last week?
Funny you should ask. Came in late, caused quite a flap. In the end, a young chap dropped it round.
Oh, well, what did he look like?
Like a young chap? Undergrad, I suppose. Gave it to one of the subs. I caught a glimpse.
Well, perhaps I could speak to this sub.
They'll have to scour their Cairngorms, I'm afraid, walking holiday, as of Monday.
Very well. Well, if you remember anything else.
Of course.
Thank you.
What did you say your name was?
Morse. Why?
Have we met?
I don't think so.
Another life then.
Lovely characters. Well, could you talk a bit about Dorothea, what makes her so special?
Well, I think she's a one-off in a different time. You know, she's a very exciting job, I think, for a woman in those days to run a newspaper. She's obviously very bright, very intelligent. You wonder about her past. I wonder about her past. How did she get there? You know, she's not. You know, you see it chaotic, scatty, tatty, focused on what she's doing, and that is great fun to play. Not a sort of traditional middle-aged woman of the 60s. So, and there's always something. There's a humour about her, which I like. A sort of spark, yeah, that Russell adds more and more each time.
Russell, isn't there a kind of Colin Dexter type clue in her surname as well?
Oh, yeah.
Could you explain that?
Well, when we were doing it, we were just initially going to do it as a one-off 25th anniversary tribute. And so, as when we did Lewis, Hathaway, his name was chosen with the same code, because lurking right in the middle of Hathaway, there were interesting four letters as well. But with Dorothea, it was but yeah, Dorothea. So again, it was I suppose it's drawing on Colin's crosswords and the arcana of the novels. He's always hiding things. Most of you will know what constantly refers to them in chapter ending as Diogenes Small, who compiled a dictionary in the 18th century. But if you look at his dates, he compiled it within the 1 year of his life. So he's a fake character. It's just Colin's jokes, and he was doing the same thing with Dorothea. So for us, there's a kind of a category of ice, and giving it the initial D, it's de-ice, and de-ice gets you to thaw. So,
I think that deserves a round of applause, actually.
just a bit of fun.
And what's your relationship been with Colin throughout the creation of this show?
Colin was hugely involved across the single that we did, and has stayed in Grosset really right through into the third series. We run the scripts past him, and he gives us the benefit of his great wisdom, particularly on plot points. He's always getting me to simplify things. Because you try and have Dexter, and he's got a big chance. So we often have to pull it back a bit. I remember in the Trove that we had chemical symbols. Yes. I'd gone to great length to spell out the complete Christian name and surname. I can't say it. Just keep short and keep it tight. So he's been really useful in that regard. And he's been pretty generous with us in terms of Endeavour's character and given us absolute leeway, really, to bend into our purposes. Because I think hopefully you'd see with the owner that we were just doing it from a place of respect, really, and wanted to stay true to his vision as much as anything else. So.
Why are these books so durable? I mean, you said, Shaun, you went back to them. Why do people love them so much? Is it just the beauty of the architecture and the characters as well?
The books, the books are tricky. I mean, the one Inspector Morse that I did adapt was The Way Through the Woods. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Because what Colin can get away with on the page, we're telling stories with pictures. And so Colin will often go, somebody saw something. You go, well, you try and shoot that. Which somebody wants something. It's difficult. So I think they work in different ways. I think the books work on a very personal level with the reader, you know, because whodunits, you know, Colin wrote Morse because he liked whodunits, but wanted to have a go himself. You know, he thought he could do as well, if not better, and prove himself right, as those he would take away on a wet weekend in Wales. And that's how Morse goes. So I think with Colin's books, you can't rush them, really. If you really want to try and solve the mystery, you know, because they are a puzzle, you almost need to sit down with a notebook and stop at the end of the chapter and then go back and review the information you found. So I certainly found that with The Way Through the Woods.
And Daniel, does he still come on set and do these Hitchcock-esque cameos?
He does.
Yes. What does that add to the show, do you think?
I think it makes it, it's just another special thing that, you know, he did it throughout Morse, he does it throughout Endeavour, and it just, it helps glue the canon together, I think, and it gives it the seal of approval.
It's almost like a stamp, a brand stamp of authenticity, isn't it?
Shaun, can we talk a bit about the character? We haven't really explored Endeavour yet. What first struck you about him, and how did you think I'm going to approach this character?
That's a good question. I think each time you get a script, you find a new way of doing things, and it's not prescriptive how you're going to approach something. I think because I had read the books prior then to reading the script, I could see the things that I particularly was interested in terms of this character's dynamic. Why is he there? What are the things that are interesting about him? And then you just start from that, really. You just start from that. Does that answer your question? Do you know what I mean?
The idea of him being hurt, the broken heart, the troubled, and in the very first scene he's resigning, isn't he?
Yeah, well, that's all clear. That was all in the script as well. You know, the idea that this person had left Oxford and then sort of left in shame, really, and then the fates or whatever had driven him back, and so he had to not only sort out this case in a way that nobody else could, but also look at those things in his life that perhaps he had pushed under the carpet. So I thought both of those things are incredible, and you know, incredible things to play with as an actor, you know. So yeah.
A great answer. But why is it a character that we keep revisiting and we keep on being fascinated by? What is it about? Is it that enigmatic quality that he has?
I think that's a very difficult. It's a difficult question to answer because I think it's part of the whole package, and it's what Russ does with it really. It's how that character is in these stories, and you can't separate it. So the stories are very dense and complicated in an interesting and enigmatic and intriguing way, and therefore the character is that way too. But I think it's you can't take the character out of the story. It works as a whole, I think, and I think that's always the case with, like, if you were to take a character and stick it in something that wasn't as well made, or into a plot that wasn't as well constructed, then, do you know what I mean? There's no difference at the end of it.
With your connection with the character, are you able to give us a take on why we love Morse so much? Is it something about that mystery to the man?
Yes, I think we all love an enigma, a mystery. And
So people think they can save the man, particularly young women perhaps.
yes, yes, that all he needs is the love of a good woman,
Yes.
absolutely, and somebody to understand him, and which is why it's so sort of, you know, when you see him with these different women, and you think he could almost have happiness, but then you wouldn't get all the stories and the plots and the murders and the, so, you know, but it's just that tantalising little bit of what is the flaw, oh, idiot, you know, and
Do you think
that adds to it.
I think that's a great
And a
point.
deep intelligence. I think everybody loves to be, he's always cleverer than you. Always. So you always, you know, you think, oh, I've got it, and then this is, he killed him because da-da-da-da-da-da, and then Morse comes along, and actually it's not at all what you think, and we love that.
Yeah. The fact that he's always troubled and sadly is possibly doomed never to be happy, I think that's an important part of his appeal as well.
So that's absolutely key. I think it's integral. I mean, it's kind of, you know, Fitzgerald, show me here, I'll write you a tragedy. And,
The human condition.
yeah, I think it's kind of, all the world loves lovers, but the broken heart, I think, is kind of constantly growing. Because, you know, it's universal.
Yes.
Absolutely, it's a more normal condition.
We want to talk about the elephant in the room because he sadly isn't here, he's in the play. Roger Allen, wonderful performance, brilliant character. And if we could introduce the clip from Series 2, this very dramatic moment that I'm sure you've all seen, gives us a good indication of him and his relationship with Morse.
Funny. It'll be 28 years tomorrow since I joined the job. 28 years to the day. Second war, of course. All this with the merger put me out of sorts, got me thinking. That's ahead and behind. I forgot for a minute, it's not about me. It's about them that turned to us for help in time of need. Weak, defenseless, old, young. Especially young.
Does that mean you've reconsidered?
Women never put up with me under a feet all day. Nah. I was born a copper. I'll die, I expect.
Insane in disguise, how heavily it dies into the west, away, past touch and sight and sound, not further to be found. How hopeless underground falls the remorseful day.
You know, there's no cavalry coming. Still time. One thing the less. To the end then.
To the end.
That is a wonderful scene, very moving of the houseman poetry, of course, but beautifully played. Can you explain a bit why people are drawn to that relationship between Thursday and Morse?
I think, well, he's clearly a mentor to
But there's an idea, I think, of the old and the new, and each needing each other as much. And I think it's not really, because if it was just a father figure, it would be less engaging. I think he clearly there was a gap in his life professionally, I suppose, for this youngster to come in the same way there was a gap, not only professionally, but in a far more rounded way for that kind of character, a good character, a mentor, somebody you could look up to in Endeavour's life as well. So I think it's a combination of that, but also as well that it shouldn't be smooth all the time. It shouldn't be pat and predictable. It should be, they should annoy each other and get things wrong and disagree, and yeah, I think it's that and that it should be, I think everyone would agree, that it should be reflect a real relationship, that it moves, and sometimes people are close together and sometimes they're far apart, and I think it's that. I mean, that's what I found interesting about it.
I found it very moving, I must admit. Damien, could you talk a bit about Roger's performance, because he's such a great actor, isn't he?
He is. He makes Fred. So the pipe was in the script, presumably. But there's something about Roger, the pipe, the whole Thursday family that Russell, before they didn't appear in the pilot, Wynne and Joan and Sam, but they were always there before you sort of put pen to paper writing the pilot. And I think your sense of Roger as Thursday, but also Thursday as that family man, the Thursday family, is a really important part of the show. At the flip side of Endeavour, this very solitary character, there's the sense of this other man who has this very deep sense of family. And I think Roger is just, I don't know, it feels, he is the perfect avuncular 1960s policeman. He's this kind of fantasy figure of what you would want from your 1960s senior policeman. He just does it so beautifully.
How significant, Russell, is it that he's been through the war and obviously had some quite troubling experiences? What does that contribute to his character?
He's seen the very worst of humanity. It's the peace dividend, isn't it? It's kind of winning the peace. Coming back in 45, 46, making a better world, really. It's that the only government basically coming in on that. That's the thing with the Thursdays, is they are. And I think that the reason why he gets on so well with Endeavour is a matter of class, actually, more than anything else. They are both from the same class. Endeavour, we should never forget, is the son of a taxi driver. He went to Oxford, but he comes from that class. I think that why Thursday took him under his wing and was drawn to him is of all the coppers in the nick, he knew he was innately decent and truthful and moved by the same things that he was. I think that's what drew them together. They were both straight as a die, when it comes to building, which isn't quite there with some of the other coppers in the opener.
Shaun, there's a wonderful chemistry between you and Roger. Can you talk a bit about working with him?
Yeah. I think he's terrific. And years ago, we were supposed to make a film together, in fact, and the way the film was constructed, we improvised a lot of the scenes, myself, Leslie Manville, Bill Knight and Roger, after 25 I think at the time. So we spent a lot of time in this writer-director's kitchen in West Hampstead, hashing out who these characters were and creating scenes, really. And then when they finally got the financing to make the film, Roger was busy, so I knew him and I'd always admired him. And then so I was delighted when I knew it was Roger for this, because there is something that he brings, which is to the work, but also to the set as well. And it's a sense of fun, I think, wouldn't you agree? It's a fun, I think any creative environment should be light and should be full of fun and energy, and I think that we've, while still getting lots of good work done, I think it's imperative that it's that way. And I think that we've managed to strike that balance, also with Anton and with all of the lads as well, Shaun, Rigby, and we've done, and Jimmy Bradshaw. I think everyone, I would like to think, looks forward to it and feels as much a part of the team as the next person. So it should feel very democratic. But yeah, Roger's just a legend.
He's like the head boy, isn't he?
Roger.
Yeah. He's
He's a
like,
naughty boy.
yeah, he is. He's really badly behaved sometimes. But he is like, he brings the gravitas, but he's very cheeky with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. It is. We have a really good time.
Yes.
There's a lot of laughing, but it's also very serious. As soon as the camera starts rolling, and that's it.
I want to talk, Abigail, about another vital component of the success of the show, which is the music. And I understand the music visited you at a very opportune moment. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, yes. I was just saying earlier on how Morse, Endeavour, is everywhere. And I was in a shop, a very posh shop, furniture shop recently, and I was looking at this chair that I really fancied. It was very expensive. I was thinking, should I put it on the credit card? And then just this, suddenly I heard, and I thought, it's a sign. It's a sign he's saying, go on kid, go on, get that shirt, put it on the credit card. You're going to keep working, kid, don't worry. Horses, it's going to go and go. So I bought it.
So Russell, she is in the next series then. I mean, she's
I do now.
chair.
Yeah.
Jamie, could you talk a bit about the importance of Barrington's music to the whole show?
I think again, like Colin and his cameo appearances, Barrington it means so much to us that Barrington is there. Kenny McBain chose Barrington to do the music for Morse. He has always been there. I think Barrington's work on Morse Barrington is one of the great kind of modern composers, and I think the sound of Morse is very, very distinctive. It does a very unique thing in the world of TV scores, and was a massive part of the success of Morse itself. And to have him, when he agreed to come and do the score for the first Endeavour story, it was a huge thing. And I remember the first time we watched a cut of the first Endeavour story, having that theme tune, the first notes of the closing title theme was just a really special thing, because it's a masterly piece of work. And so to have him still actively musically engaged with this world of Colin Dexter is a really important thing, I think.
You absolutely can't underestimate how much the score brings to it. Because part of the process, we put a temp score on when we're editing these things. And to watch the film without any score, and then with the temp score, okay, gets us so far. And then Barrington does his thing, and it's another film, I promise you, every time. It just takes it there.
I wanted to talk to you, Russell, about the other star of the show, which is, of course, Oxford. What does that give to the show?
Well, I mean, it's its identity, isn't it? It's visual identity, certainly. It's a very pretty city.
It is a very pretty city. I think one of the great things about Endeavour that sets it apart from Morse is we have a lot of college life in Endeavour, but we also, it really is the study of a city and its town and gown over the 13 films we've made so far. You really do go into all sorts of corners of Oxford life. And one of the things I love about what Russell does in the scripts, one of the great privileges of having just one writer write every word of the show, is because you are so playful in the way that Dorothea Frazel's name is just one. Yet there are hundreds of examples, most of which we don't even know because Russell doesn't tell us, but just little naughty things.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, as you say, it's not, it's as much town as it is going. And I really wanted that to be part of the identity of.
But the way you weave in across different films, you know, there are passing glances to things that happen in a department store that might be a key location in one thing. It still is threaded into other films, so you really feel that this is a real world. I find that very pleasing.
Well, and it comes from Z-Cars, if we're honest. You know, seminal 1960s policier. And that kind of did what Chandler did with the hard-boiled thing, which was to give murder back to the people who most often commit it. Rather than, you know, pre-Raphaelite beauties and dogs in ivory towers. It's the guy down the bookies, you know, and that's there at Z-Cars and other great British shows at the time. And also we were touching on the frost gauge with Clean's, Barker and Corbett of I am upper class, I am middle class, I am lower class, and it's kind of weaving that through. So it's never just one strata. I think if something happens up here, you want to see its effect down there as well, and crisscross.
But also lovely callbacks to also with your line from that scene, Another Life, and then quoting the remorseful day, which is obviously the final more story. That's wonderful the way that you do inject these references that maybe not everyone will notice, but it's there for the real aficionados as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of it's hardwired into the soul of the piece. And I think there's, not going ahead of ourselves, but certainly in Series 3 there's a great deal of connective tissue to oblique a lot of the time, but there's certainly a lot of connective tissue to call forward to the 80s and 90s.
That's a very good cue. Could we show the clip from the version? This is an exclusive, people. You're very honoured. No one has seen this before, well, except the people who are in it, obviously.
You can pull our host from that top hat and we can ask him.
Be delighted. Hey, voila. A thorough man, I thought you knew. I'm Vic. My friends call me Vic. Smalls, isn't it? Anthony Stapleton.
Yes, you know that?
Been my guest many times, both here and in London. It's Berkeley Square, the Belvedere, how do you know? I'm afraid there are things to which I must attend. Do you have everything you want?
Which was going to answer yes to that? In present company, obviously.
If you're free tomorrow, come and watch me put red tail for a basis. You mind hunchback? Said on 11. Fix them stop now, Robbie.
So Shaun, massive spoiler alert, but how does Morse develop in this series? How do you cope with the changing times?
I think part about this person is that he's always out of joint with his time anyway. So as we go into the late 60s and all that entails, that's just not part of this character's world, and so he sort of dips in and out. In terms of from a character point of view, I think what the interest and trajectory over these four is the idea of will he become a sergeant, will he advance amongst the lads in the station, or will anyone else start to, because that's what makes it interesting as well, the hierarchy, detective, constable, sergeant, inspector, the conflict that arises between those. So I think that's what Russ has done brilliantly in these. That's the constant, I would say, throughout. Is he going to stay as a detective, or is he going to slowly start to take his place, what he deserves, or not?
What can you tell us, Russ, about the development of the series?
Series
Not very
3.
much, yeah, Series 3, because it's coming on in the winter.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying.
I think it's, we always said that 67 would be a year of change, and so in that respect I think it's kind of transitional. It's fine. Across the board, yeah. We ended in a very different place to which we began, for very many people.
But again, as Shaun said, Endeavour seems a man out of time in that particular era.
Always, yeah. It's that's been the fun of it, really, is that you've got a constant, you've got a rock around it that the storm breaks. You know? And the 67 in particular is Sergeant Pepper for us. It's kind of going off around Endeavour, but it's kind of doesn't seem to touch him quite the way it will.
He turns down the joints that he's offered and everything, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yes. David, this has been such a huge success. Do you envisage it running for years and years? Is that the hope?
I think Russell has a plan. I don't know if it's a 5-year plan or a 4-year plan, but you know, we are enjoying working through the 60s, and it very much feels, felt to me that there's something about Shaun as Endeavour starting where he does in the early 60s and telling that story of change in as much of the 1960s as we are allowed to, feels like a very pleasing thing.
I wondered if anyone in the audience would like to ask a question. And yes, the gentleman there, so it's very hard to see, but right in the middle. If you wait, they'll just hand you a mic.
I love the story arc of Morse going out with a black nurse. Where did that come from? And sorry to ask a controversial one, but was that tokenism?
Certainly not an intent, no. They're interesting, these stories, that sometimes that you want to do. Take the Thursday Family, for instance. They had, as Damien was saying earlier, they've been kind of bobbling around, not only in the back of the pilot, but then I wanted them the first one, we couldn't squeeze them in. So it's often, these stories have been in my mind right from the beginning, but it's finding the place that you can drop them in. And certainly, Monica Hicks, there's no attempt on our part, tokenism. It was far more a case of looking at the NHS and celebrating, acknowledging and paying the debt to its staff, many of them having come from former colonies, and Monica herself is second generation. So that was something that we just wanted to celebrate, really, and acknowledge. And going right back to where I started with writing police shows back on the bill in the 90s, it was so common that cops would end up dating nurses because they saw them a lot. And originally, I think Monica she may even have been taken out of an early draft in the first series, just simply we've got so much story and so little room, very often, to squeeze as much as we've got in. And I'd always wanted a kind of romance with a girl across the hallway from his digs. Going, but it was a very good year, the Sinatra song. you know, for small town girls who look up the stair, you know. That was where Monica came from, and it's just, you pull these things together into one person, you know, the various things that one wants to do, coalesce and just became one character, but it was, you know, I mean, not the place to debate it, but I'm interested why that struck you as it might have been tokenism, because it was certainly never our intent.
Great. Yes, at the back there, if you could just wait for the mic, that'd be great, thank you.
One of the things I love in a prequel is to spot the people that are going to figure in Morty's life later, and we obviously got Strange with his matey, and his going to be James Grant one day, and the young pathologist is going to be Peter Woodthorpe. And I have a suspicion, correct me if I'm wrong, that Jonathan Slinger might turn out to be Ian McDermott later on, or is that just me?
Hugo de Vries. I wouldn't rule out, see, at some point, whether it's this time round or another. I certainly wouldn't rule it out. But yeah, I mean, as I was saying, there's an awful lot of connective tissue in this third series, for those that know the earlier show. But it's certainly not dependent on that. It's just some fun we have with seeing people in different contexts sometimes that we've only just ever so slightly met in the future, seeing them again in the past now.
Yes, gentleman here, and then the lady there, and then the lady in the front row at the back.
Oh, hello. I just wondered, with all the transitional stuff coming through, and as you're sort of going through the 60s, if you've ever considered filming maybe an episode in Cambridge, reason being, that would create a lot of rivalry amongst everybody, and we live there. And you would also double your viewers. And all the Oxford people would be thinking, oh, blimey, it would really cause a stir. How about it?
Well, it's very nice. Perhaps we'll do a Grantchester and Endeavour crossover. Yes.
For comic relief.
Yeah.
He could meet the early Pink Floyd. They were in Cambridge, weren't they, in those days? Sorry, that was a rubbish idea.
No, not at all.
Yes, there was a lady in the middle there.
Hello, yes, I was a teenager in the 60s, and so I'm really very aware of authenticity. I know that in some series like Downton Abbey, there's some really big mistakes on phraseology and slang and everything. And I've found that so far you've done pretty well on this, and I'm just wondering how you've done it.
You're a young man, Russell, yeah.
You all look too young to have lived through the 60s, and I know many people in this audience, or some of us have.
Yes, how do you do that?
Just really soaking oneself up in films and documentaries and the writing of the period, the music, everything. It's just like getting into a bath for about 8 or 9 months, just soaking it in. And music was quite big with me when I was younger, and I think if you kind of get an ear for cadence of speech and idiom as well. I'm an absolute sucker for idiom. I adore idiom, period idiom, and it's just because you've got both. I mean, you've got hitherto Thursday's 1940s kind of dialogue, and then you've got the slightly more 1960s and hipper stuff, and then stuff that Endeavour gets so hideously awry with his pop dancing. So it's just, that's the joy of it for me, is the dialogue. And we've got a massive team that kind of keeps us on the straight and narrow in terms of anachronism and authenticity as best they can. But we do include at least 10 deliberate mistakes in the style of the Evening Standard that the audience are invited to identify.
Are there specific musicians and writers that you go to immerse yourself in that period?
Yes.
I mean, you want to keep them secret, do you?
I'll give away all my trade secrets.
No.
Okay. Gideon's Way was a fantastic show from the 60s. I'm a huge fan of Public Eye, which was 65 to 75. Books and stuff of the novels that I tend to look at the stuff that comes out in the year that we find ourselves in. And often slightly more obscure, lesser known kind of novels. It's amazing what you can mine. Thief, isn't it?
Borrow from the best, as Picasso said. Yes.
I have to say that also his scripts, if you could read his scripts, all the stage directions are exactly the same, written in the same way as well. It's sort of like reading a novel, isn't it? It's like reading a short story, reading his scripts.
The lady at the back, yes. And then the lady here.
Hi, this is a question for Shaun. Is there any bits in the script or things like that you think this isn't what my character would do? Because you know your character inside out, so is it kind of, you go, actually, the way I picture it, the way I see it, no, he's not going to do that?
That's a great question. I think like I was saying earlier, it's difficult to separate the character from the story. And also, I think, whilst you try your best to create a character that's individual, that's living and breathing, it is a part of something bigger. So there are occasions where you think, well, I would never do that, but this person has to do that in order for us to get this next bit of information. And so I'm quite open about thinking, oh, well, on a whimsical moment, he might do this. So if there was a time where I thought, I don't think that's right, I would park it and keep it to myself and just get on with it for the benefit of the whole, if you see what I mean. Because I think that's part of it.
I have to say, it's interesting working with Shaun as a leading man. He is unusually so engaged with the scripts. One of the things that really keeps us on our toes, but it's also makes the process very pleasing, is just Shaun's level of engagement with the scripts, the stories, the plots, character motivation, and it feels like a proper collaboration in a way that sometimes it doesn't. I mean, Shaun really gets his hands dirty, making sure that you understand it, that it makes sense, that we have there's a lot of very constructive back and forth, isn't there? That is unusual, and I think really helps raise the bar.
Right. Yes, the lady here. Yes. Sorry, it's very much you.
I think there's a question in here, and it's just to start off and say, I guess extending what has just been said, that through everything about Endeavour, the writing, the characterisation, Thursday, the presence of Abigail, the acting, particularly with Shaun, who I think does such a great job of embodying the Morse that we know without doing an impression of John Thor's Morse. The programme completely sets its own tone and becomes its own thing, but with this fantastic presence of Colin, the novels, John, and everything that we remember, we want to see more of, and it is its own thing. And I guess it's just to ask you, there's one particular moment in the pilot where Shaun's Endeavour is looking in the rearview mirror, and it fades to John Thor's eyes, and it's such a wonderful, moving moment. Perhaps I found it more moving almost than it should have been, but I just wondered if any of you would like to speak about that moment a little bit, because it seems to me it's a small part of the whole thing, but
I agree. That for me was when I went to see the screening of it, was the thing that sort of finished me off really. Actually, it was just such a great moment. I read it. It was just, but it was the physics, the music. I was thinking that when you were talking about it was everything that came together at that moment. And again, that is such a great example of how the team, and I felt sort of, I've watched every night, really been there, and I didn't think there would be any surprises for me at all. And just watching, you know, when Thursday says, you know, so what are you going to do? You know, and he just holds that. I think I've only seen it twice because I can't bear to actually, you know, just. And it was just extraordinary that it was just brought everything into that moment with where your eyes turn into my father's. And actually, you don't remind me of Dad at all in many ways, which is great because it makes it you. But I see the power, and there's essences, but physically, you know, I'm not thinking, oh, there's my old man there, but it's. But that was extraordinarily powerful of everyone, you know, Roger and Shaun in that car, the music writing, just that little bit of rear view window in a Jag, you know, it just says it all. I don't know, it's those bits of magic that happen, aren't they, on television?
Those bits of magic, I think that's a great note to end it on. This has been the magical panel, so I'd like to say a huge thank you to Damien, to Russell, to Shaun, and to Abigail for a wonderful